Welcome to today's Bass Coast Shire Council meeting, Wednesday the 19th of October 2022. As the meeting chair, I give my consent for this open council meeting to be streamed live, recorded and published online in accordance with Council's live streaming policy and governance rules. To members of the public joining us in the gallery today, by attending this public meeting of the Council, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. The Chair and/or the CEO have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory or potentially inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and or unacceptable behaviour or comments. Thank you. Please turn off all your mobile phones, or in the cases of emergency, please advise the Chair and switch to silent mode. Acknowledgement. Bass Coast Shire Council acknowledge the Bunurong as the traditional owners and custodians of the lands and waters and pays respect to their elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the memories, the traditions, the culture and law. Bass Coast Shire Council celebrates the opportunity to embrace and empower the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island communities in their diversity. Bass Coast Shire Council will create opportunities for future recognition and respectful partnerships that will honour the traditional owners and custodians and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island peoples. Call on Councillor Kent to read the Councillor statement, please.
Thank you, Mayor. All members of this council pledge to the Bass Coast Shire community to consider every item listed on this agenda based on the individual merits of each item, without bias or prejudice, by maintaining an open mind and disregarding councillors' personal interests so as to avoid any conflict with our public duty. Any councillor having a conflict of interest in an item will make a proper prior disclosure to the meeting and will not participate in the debate or vote on the issue.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Apologies. I have two apologies for today, Councillor Letitia Lang and Councillor Brett Tessari. There are no declarations of interest, and that brings us to the confirmation of the minutes from the meeting held on the 21st of September 2022. I call on a councillor to move and second the motion that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 21st of September 2022 be confirmed. Councillor Kent, Councillor Lasser. Those in favour? Against? That's carried. That brings us to public question time. And the first 6 questions relate to the Surf Beach Sunderland Bay Special Charge Scheme, and questions were received from the following people: Philip Graham Davey, Neil Wilmot, Susie Wicks, Danielle Inwood, Natasha Dunstan, Emily Clark. The individual questions will be published in the meeting minutes. A single response has been prepared for all questions. I call on the CEO to read that out.
Through the Mayor. Council is following the Urban Roads and Drainage Improvement Policy 2019 and the legislative processes of the Local Government Act 1989 in regards to the Surf Beach and Sunderland Bay potential road and drainage upgrade project. Council is undertaking community engagement and various planning investigations to determine the preferred design, project risks, cost estimate and cost proportion of works. Council's engagement includes consultation with every property owner within Surf Beach and Sunderland Bay, a monthly newsletter, email and letter correspondence, and a dedicated information page on Engage Bass Coast. A community reference group consisting of over 100 property owners has also been established to help guide potential design options, which will later be presented to the wider community. A detailed report to Council is expected to be presented for consideration in July 2023. Residents are encouraged to follow updates on the proposal on engage.basscoast.vic.gov.au. Officers will also follow up with each question submitter to discuss their specific inquiries further.
Mr. Mayor, can I just add to that, if you don't mind, in relation to councillors, especially Western Port Ward councillors, who have been receiving incredible feedback from the community and just give the community confidence that councillors are taking their submissions very seriously. We are taking their concerns on board. It's not appropriate at this time for councillors to make any decision until all of the information has been put together in a report by council, and that it will come to the council for a decision. And I just want to give our community in Surf Beach and Sunderland Bay the confidence that Western Port councillors in particular are paying very close attention to the emails that they're receiving. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you to Councillor Holstead for the additional information. Question 7 is from Sue Alcock, public open space contribution. How much public open space contribution levy has been raised in San Remo from 2018 until now? How has this been used to the benefit of San Remo?
Through the Mayor, since 2018, Council has collected $123,250 in public space contributions. These funds have not been spent.
Question 8 is from Melissa Dagg, topic asset renewal backlog. Can Council please provide details with explanations of Council's asset renewal backlog currently?
Through the Mayor, the current backlog is 0.9%, and this is detailed in the 10-year assets plan adopted by Council in June 2022.
Thank you. There are no petitions, joint letters, deputations or correspondence, and there are no notices of motion. So as is been the usual practice, the Chair, we request councillors to forego their presentation of a monthly report and include those in the minutes, as indeed will the Mayor's report will be published in the minutes. This brings us to reports requiring a council decision. The first one is Planning Application 94581, Leg 1, Amendment to Condition 19 to extend operating hours of service station. Mr Sturton to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present Planning Application 94581-1, which seeks to amend the original permit to extend the operating hours of the service station located at 103 to 107 McKenzie Street Wonthaggi. The proposal seeks to extend the hours of operation by 1 hour in the morning and night to 6 a.m. and 11 p.m. The application was advertised and received 8 objections related to adverse amenity impacts to the local neighbourhood. The application has been assessed and it is recommended that council issue a notice of refusal to grant an amended planning permit. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Sturton. Can I have a councillor to move and a councillor to second that report, please, or the resolution?
I'm happy to move, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Holstead and Councillor Kent. Councillor Holstead.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. This is one of those conditions that come before council where there's been concern around residents expressing their concern for the extended hours, and it is another one that council has taken on board. So therefore, I'm happy to support the recommendation.
Councillor Kent.
I've got similar feelings, Mayor. It's in a built-up area there. I can feel for the local residents. I believe that the petroleum industry should address an issue that if somebody's travelling late at night in our location, they've got to travel all the way to Bass after a certain time. So I think there is an area there that this issue could be addressed in the right location.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Any other councillor wish to speak to this motion?
Yes.
Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, fellow councillors and members of the public watching this meeting. This amendment to application 94581-1 is a business decision by the service station operators. I cannot see why an extra hour on either side of the day is going to have any adverse effect on the community. If anything, it's a benefit to have the centre open longer. I've grown up in an area where the local petrol station was open for the same hours with no complaints from the locals other than the price of the fuel being 45 cents a litre. The only reason that the service station closed was due to the value of the land. If the business operators believe opening longer hours justifies the additional variable costs of operation, I don't see why we should stand in their way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? If not, councillor Holstead, do you wish-
Further-
we'll put that then. Those in favour? Against, that's carried. Brings us to H2 Planning Application 210377, use and development of a residential village. Mr. Sturton, introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present Planning Application 210377, which seeks to use and develop the land for a residential village, remove vegetation, remove an existing easement and display business identification signage at the site bordered by Settlement Road, Church Street and Justice Road in Cowes. The land is zoned general residential zone and has a vegetation protection overlay. The application is before council as the cost of development is estimated to be $14 million. The application also attracted 15 submissions during the notice period. The application has been assessed against the Bass Coast planning scheme and it is recommended the council issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit subject to the conditions as outlined in the report. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sturton. Can I have a councillor to move that? Councillor Bauer?
I'd like to move an amendment.
An alternative resolution. Can we have that on the screen, please? And can you just tell us what the alternative motion involves, councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The alternate item looks like 1A.1 is to cap the amount of dwellings on the site.
And to be precise, so the remainder of the motion is the same as...
Exactly, yes.
Have a seconder for that, councillor Brooks. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors and member of the public watching this meeting. As I said, when this proposal originally came before council, I'm not against this project. I recognise there is a need for a desire for this type of retirement village. My objection was the number of units being crammed into the site. Following the refusal of the original report, the operators extended to all councillors an invitation to see for themselves what the business model is and how it operates. Councillor Holstead and I, together with Ms. Taylor, took up the offer and went to visit a retirement village in North Clyde. During that visit, we were taken on a guided tour of the facility and spoke to some of the residents who happened to be walking past, all who spoke warmly about living there. I took the opportunity to walk down one of the streets that was not on the Cook's tour and spoke to a few people that happened to be randomly walking along. What really impressed me was that they were very happy with the management, the programs that were offered and the staff of the village. After the tour, we were shown redrawn plans which included 5 new parklets. And we were told, as I remember, that the proposal had been reduced to 249 dwellings. In the submitted proposal on page 30 of the report under dwellings, it states over 250 potential dwellings sites are proposed, and the proposed plan indicates that a potential 256 UMDs could be placed on the land. My alternative motion caps the planning application 210377 to 256 dwellings. I'm pleased that the operators are working with council on this application, but I believe that a maximum of 256 dwellings is a fair compromise from the original 277 that were originally proposed. The way the original report in the agenda reads allows for wriggle room. This alternative motion caps and removes any discrepancies or misconceptions from my understanding of the proposal. I commend the motion to the chamber.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Rooks.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. I'm pleased with this application. I was also pleased with the last application when this came to council in August. This application has some more open space, which is fantastic, as a result of a number of units being dropped off the plans. As I spoke last time in August, this type of community village that's been set up is really important for our ageing population within the Bass Coast Shire and Phillip Island specifically. The Palm Resort is full, and this provides an option for the more mature people of our population to create a great community atmosphere.
You, Councillor Rooks. Any other councillor? Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with both councillors, their comments, and I am entirely happy that all island councillors are now happy with this project. I've had a couple of contacts from objectors who were a little bit concerned that they hadn't received copies of the current plans. But I am satisfied from speaking to our planning department that the internal changes, which I believe are an improvement, wouldn't have made any difference to the objectives and their comments.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge the 15 submissions received on this application and thank submitters for expressing their views on what's a pretty large development for cows. Initially, I wasn't supportive of the application at the initial presentation to Council in August. However, after visiting with Councillor Bauer to consider the layout, I was lucky enough to speak with and witness residents enjoying the facilities. The village felt safe, well designed and well maintained, with residents looking relaxed, and most warming was their interaction with one another. The clubhouse was impressive, offering large communal meeting spaces and a diverse array of recreational activities. The applicant has incorporated more open space in the plans and there does not appear to be any breaches to the planning regulation. Council needs to provide diversity in housing, and with the applicant's willingness to work with Council to negotiate a better outcome, I'm satisfied my initial concerns have been addressed.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, Councillor Bauer, do you wish to reply? Or
No, nothing.
happy to put the motion. Those in favour? That's carried. Which brings us to H.3 Planning Application 220110, buildings and works to construct 8 dwellings at 3 Pike Street, San Remo. Mr Sturton to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present Planning Application 220110, which seeks to use and develop the land for 8 dwellings located at 3 Pike Street, San Remo. The land is zoned general residential zone and is subject to a design and development overlay. The application is before Council as the cost of the development is estimated to be $3.7 million. The application attracted 1 submission during the notice period. The application has been assessed against the Bass Coast planning scheme, and it is recommended that Council issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit subject to the conditions as outlined in the report. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Sturton. Have a councillor to move that motion. Councillor Kent, seconded. Councillor Holstead. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor. This application is only before us because of the cost of the development. We've had 1 objection. If the community have a look at the plans, I personally think that they're great. Height-wise, generally speaking, the majority are under 7 metres. There's one there at 7.2 and one at 7.4. And for the location, I do not see an issue whatsoever. And we need this type of development, can I say quality development in this area. So I fully support it.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Councillor Holstead.
Nothing further.
Nothing further. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My initial concerns was around the waste management. We've had developments like this before where, you know, the waste trucks can't get down. But as per the plan, it's 6 of the out of the 8 face the road, and so that's they're able to access the standard council service for waste, and the other 2 will allocate their bins to the front of the property. So I'm happy with that. I asked the question from our planning department and satisfied with the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lasserve. Any other councillor wish to speak on the motion? Councillor Kent.
Put it to
Put the motion. Those in favour? That's carried. Brings us to H.4 Planning Application 220277, development of the land for a dwelling in a design and development overlay, DD01. Mr Sturton to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present Planning Application 220277, which seeks to use and develop the land for a single dwelling at 64 the Esplanade, Cape Woolamai. The land is zoned general residential zone and is subject to a design and development overlay and vegetation protection overlay. The application was advertised and received 5 objections. The application has been assessed against the Bass Coast planning scheme, and it is recommended that council issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit subject to the conditions as outlined in the report. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Sturton. I have a councillor to move that motion. Councillor Kent, seconded. Councillor Holstead. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor. Done a lot of work on this application, and I would like to thank all those members of the community, including the applicant, for their submission to councillors. There is a lot of thought by the community in regards to heights of developments, and when people believe that their views are being impeded by future development. And this has to be balanced out against the right of the applicant to have their home. I'd like to thank the applicant too for the quality of their submission to council. Overall, I believe that it's a good design. It is 8.3 metres in height, which is above the 7 metres, which it has to be looked at, and due to the number of objections, it has to be looked at too. But when one walks along the esplanade there, my belief is that this property will fit directly in there. It's a high quality property. I believe that it is a reasonable height for the area. And just for the community to remember that the 7 metre height is just that level that we've got to start taking a look at it. I believe it's the right property for the right location there. Can't take it any further. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I concur with the thoughts of Councillor Kent. It did do as the 7 metre rule expects, and that is it's a trigger for us to take a close look, and we certainly have done that. I agree that it's in a location where the height can be accommodated, and I'm pleased that the property is set back and using pretty much the same footprint, maybe slightly larger, of the house that is already there. I do get the concern of community around the 7 metre rule. But again, I would reiterate that it is a trigger. It's not saying that someone can't build any higher than 7 metres. In fact, applicants are able to go to 11 metres. So I think that, yeah, everything else fits within the planning regulations, and therefore I will be supporting the application.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, but this one was a bit tough to look at and to initially see the height, because it is fairly high. But that being given, it's got a design and development overlay, and that has been considered in the application. The garden area, I was pleased that acknowledged in the report that the minimum garden area requirements of 35% is required, but this application shows that a 54% of garden area green space around this house is included in this application. And I think the important thing to consider is that, you know, we're at a point of flipping some of the older style generational homes to now more modern designs. So there's a lot of considerations to be taken into consideration in that. And, you know, this is kind of like an infill in a way. It's this applicant's picked up the design to have this home there, and I think it'll be a good fit in that area. So
thank you, Councillor Lasserve. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, Councillor Kent, let's vote. Put that. Those in favour? That's carried. That brings us to H5, Asset Management Policy and Strategy Review. Mr Sturton to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present for adoption the Asset Management Policy and Asset Management Strategy. Both documents have a 4-year timeline, 2022 to 2026, at which time they will be reviewed. The asset management policy and strategy ensures Council's commitment to managing and caring for its $730 million value of infrastructure assets, spanning transport, flood protection, sport, recreation, arts and meeting places. Critical to the management of our asset base is planned intervention before excessive deterioration occurs, which is outlined through these documents and Council's asset management plans. Both the asset management policy and strategy follow the adoption of the 10-year asset plan adopted by Council in June 2022. I'm pleased to present both the asset management policy and asset management strategy for adoption. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sturton. Have a councillor to move that motion. Councillor Lasserve, second it. Councillor Rooks. Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The asset management, it's a pretty dry subject, but the strategy and the policy commits Council to the management and care of our infrastructure and those assets and the appropriate delivery of the services to the community. I think these plans are of a 4-year in nature and they help future-proof the Council's assets with updates and clear guidelines. Our infrastructure is ageing and strategy and the plans help to appropriately fund, assess and maintain and replace those assets within the community. So it's a part and guided by the Victorian Local Government Better Practice Guideline. So it's well monitored. These reports have been presented to the Audit and Risk Committee and the data is in real time and consideration is taken into the life expectancy and the value of the assets. So I'm happy with the recommendation and the reports.
You, Councillor Lasserve. Councillor Rooks.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. Yeah, as councillors, we got a number of briefings on these two documents and they were excellent and informative. So it's helped us manage our way through these two documents. And we do very well in the area of asset management relative to the rest of the state. We do tend to fix things before they get too broken. So well done to our council. These are important documents, as mentioned, because there's $730 million worth of assets that we have. And there's two other little points I'd like to make. One, that they're not a static document, but they have actions within the document which allows for the community to have further input and to work to a continuous improvement process of the strategy. And also the strategy also has been updated to recognise our climate emergency declaration and our asset practices to align with our 2030 zero emissions target. And that's a good thing too.
Thank you, Councillor Rooks. Any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Lark.
I have a question for Mr. Mack. If he could,
yes, go ahead.
I would just like to get Mr. Mack to clarify the difference between the model adopted by Council and the model in place that governs our financial reporting and sustainability indicators from a renewal perspective. Just point of clarification, that's all, in terms of the adoption.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Mack.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Council uses in their asset prediction, they use a condition-based approach. So it considers the condition of the asset group as a whole. In the financial accounts, we use a straight line depreciation model, which Vargo are comfortable with. They've signed off on the accounts and they're comfortable with the methodology that we use.
Thanks, Mr. Mack. Councillor Lark.
No, nothing further.
Okay, thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? If not, Councillor Lasserve.
Nothing further, Mayor, thank you.
We'll put that then. Those in favour? That's carried. Brings us to H6, Jam Jerop, Special Charge Scheme Initial Consultation. Mr. Sturton to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present findings from the initial consultation period of elevating Jam Jerop within the urban roads and drainage policy. Council received a petition from local residents at the March 2022 meeting to seal Bay Road and Foreshore Road and a subsequent report at the May 2022 meeting, which commenced a community engagement period. To elevate a special charge scheme within the existing policy, a 70% favourable vote must be obtained. In this instance, a 47% favourable vote was returned. The report recommends that no further special charge scheme planning works are undertaken at this time. The Jam Jarrett retain their spot in the policy upgrade list. The council investigate interim traffic measures and advise the head petitioner of the decision. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Mr Sturton, have a councillor to move the motion and seconder. Councillor Kent, Councillor Holstead. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe the bottom line on this is that not enough people stepped forward to sign to the scheme, which will be disappointing for those property owners who wish the scheme to go ahead. Could I just ask a question for the council officer in regards to Mr Sturton, in regards to, you mentioned other means would be looked at. Can you expand on that, what you mean?
Through you, Mr Mayor, we're more than open to consider low-cost interim measures such as speed cushions, speed limit, dust signs, etc., to slow traffic on those roads to alleviate the dust issues that the local residents are experiencing. We've rolled those sorts of low-cost treatments out to other unsealed urban areas across the shire.
Thank you very much for the prize. I can't take this any further, Mayor. If the community don't want it in numbers, then it can't go forward.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I too have a question for Mr Sturton, just in relation to those measurements he's talking about. Can we just get a point of clarification whether that includes dust suppression?
Through you, Mr Mayor, that wouldn't be something we would be considering at this time.
Okay, thank you. I too just wanted to thank the petitioners for going to the trouble of putting a petition together. It's not an easy task, and having it submitted to council, and thank the officers for carrying out the work that they have. I too am sorry to those residents who would have liked to have seen this scheme move forward. Unfortunately, this time round, the numbers haven't fallen their way. So maybe, you know, in future, hopefully, things may change. And it's really lovely too, Mr Mayor, to see Jam Jarrett being spoken about, because it's often a very quiet, sleepy hollow that I think the residents there actually prefer. So it's really lovely to see that we're talking about Jam Jarrett as well. So thank you, Mr Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, and as a ward councillor with my fellow ward councillors, we're certainly disappointed that Jam Jarrett didn't get this one up on this time. But the reality is that we've had to say, when community come forward, that they want their roads done, roads and drainage, which is a very important factor in it, and even more so today with the climate change issues that we've had and seen lately with the amount of rains that we've had. That it's just really unfortunate that 70% of that community couldn't get this scheme up and ahead of other schemes. We have a lot of legacy issues in Bass Coast, and we've just completed one scheme over at Pioneer Bay and made a very good outcome for that community. So I'm disappointed because I don't think really, just a few dust slow down because of dust. I really work hard with the group, and hopefully they can come back again sometime when they've got 70%.
Thank you, Councillor. So any other councillor wish to speak? If not, Councillor Kent?
No, that's
put that.
Thank you.
Those in favour? It's carried. Brings us to H7 RFQ number 15. Head Consultant Architectural Design Services refurbishment of the old post office Wonthaggi. Mr Sturton, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present a contract award for request for quotation number 15, Head Consultant and Architectural Design Services for the refurbishment of the old post office site in Wonthaggi. These works will produce designs for building renewal works to ensure the old post office is fit for purpose and ensure the prevention of ongoing structural damage. The report is before council as the quotation submission is higher than the allocated budget. A request for quotation process has been conducted and an assessment made in line with Council's quadruple bottom line procurement policy. It is recommended that Council award RFQ number 15 to Architecture Matters Proprietary Limited for the contract sum of $122,616.82, excluding GST. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sturton. Can I have a councillor move that motion? Councillor Rooks, seconded. Councillor Lasserve. Councillor Rooks.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Will. I'm happy to support this motion. This old post office building built in 1911 has a lot of history attached to it, and it's great that we're going to look at preserving that history, protecting the lifespan of it and its use. It was the post office until 1980 and then has been also used as a library recently. So it's a great asset. It's a gorgeous building and I'm pleased that we're going to look after it.
Thank you, Councillor Rooks. Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the historical building for Wonthaggi and this report says and states that it is really just the really basic maintenance. This is not kind of prettying up the building and turning it into something it's not. We've used this building all the time and it should be maintained as per our asset register or asset plan. So I'm happy to support.
Thanks, Councillor Lasserve. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Not Councillor Rooks, do you wish to reply?
No, that's fine.
Okay, we'll put that motion. Those in favour? That's carried. Now, that brings us to H.8 House Community Garden Budget. Ms Kennedy, if you introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to seek council endorsement to increase the budget to $384,000 for the construction of the community garden at Blue Gum Reserve to accommodate an increase Blue Gum Reserve. The increase in budget is to cover the delivery costs. The budget is offset by contributions of $106,000 that has been obtained through the Phillip Island Bass Coast RSL Trust Fund. As the shortfall in the original budget allocation exceeds 20%, a council decision is required in accordance with council procurement policy. Officers have worked with volunteers to identify opportunities to reduce costs prior to seeking approval to increase the budget. However, the majority of the costs increased for the provision of essential services, including water and power. The community garden plays a pivotal role in the delivery of the Pickle Food Relief Program and provide important social connection for the community of Phillip Island. Utilising the funding obtained from the Phillip Island RSL Bass Coast Trust Fund to increase the budget will enable council to make construction costs and deliver a fit-for-purpose community garden that can be accessed and utilised by all within our community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Kennedy. Have a councillor to move that motion. Councillor Rooks, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Rooks.
Thank you, Mayor Will. I'm happy to support the recommendation for all the great benefits his community garden is going to offer. Though I would state that I'm frustrated at how much the many services are now costing. But they are essential services. We do need them. It's very frustrating that the prices are so high. This community garden is a great space and it's complemented by the old CFA building, which is on the same site, which is a community facility itself already housing, well, soon to be housing, I should say, some of our arts groups and also Pickles, Boomerang Bags group. There's going to be a fantastic hub down there in that area, and I'm hoping that we can introduce something for the youth in the future as well, maybe a rock wall, some tables and chairs and a fireplace, and they could participate as well with the art groups and the community garden to form a complete community hub.
Thank you, Councillor Rooks. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors, a member of the public watching this meeting. I fully concur with what Councillor Rooks has just said. He's taken a lot of my thunder now. So let me reshake this a bit. As I said, I fully concur. This report is another example of how difficult it is to put into action capital works which have been approved even as recently as last June. The work that Pickle does for our community cannot be measured in dollars. The community garden is an integral part of this program. Without it, Pickle cannot economically grow the produce it requires for the meals which are given to the needy every day. It is a bonus to the class community in general that an area has been set aside for individual use. As I said, some things cannot be measured in dollars. The cost is what it is. There are some other capital works where we may find savings if we have to, and I commend this report.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I know this has been an incredibly long journey for all involved, including our council officers who have worked tirelessly to deliver this project on Pickles' preferred site at Worley Avenue. The wheels were set in motion on this project by the previous council, and there have been a number of hurdles to overcome, not the least of which were out of council's control and driven by the unavailability of sites within desired timeframes. Recent local media reports give the impression that council is responsible for the hold-ups. However, I wish to point out that these statements are untrue. Currently, council is waiting on securing vacant possession of the CFA building, that is a state government site in Settlement Road, Cows, and we're unable to offer a home to Boomerang Bags and local arts groups until this occurs. We have seen this project come back to council on a number of occasions for amendments and increases to the budget. I concur with Councillor Rooks on that. That part of increases to the budget has been frustrating. It has been trying at times with material cost blowouts, labour shortages and time extensions. I think it's important that we acknowledge and thank the ratepayers of Bass Coast for this $3 million plus purpose-built facility. The unwavering commitment by volunteers to deliver programs, provide support and offer nourishment to those in our community who really need it is what has kept council steadfast in our commitment to support them by providing a home where they can continue to do the great community work that they do. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Holstead. Any other councillor wish to speak to this? Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I fully support this project. My only comment is, and Councillor Rooks touched upon this, that there may be future plans for this location also. I would hope that we do future planning now. It always frustrates me when you see a road built and then somebody comes along the next day and digs it up to put a pipe in. I would hope that if we have any future plans for seating or, you know, need power out the back somewhere, that this is addressed now, not at a future date. That's all. For value for money. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Any other councillor wish to speak? Okay, in reply, Councillor Rooks.
Yeah, just touching on what Councillor Halstead said with regards to Boomerang Bags, even though we can't help them at the moment to put them into the CFA site. And I think you mentioned we haven't got a home for them in that respect, but can I ask Ms Kennedy what we're doing for them instead as an interim measure?
So, our officers, our community planning officers have been working with the community groups to try and find a range of options for them. In regards to Boomerang Bags, one of the volunteers has offered for them to operate out of their property, and we're storing some of their material for them in the interim. And we're also moving the art groups and their works as well, so our outdoor filters and replicate their material out of the existing building they're in until the CFA building comes back.
Thank you. That's all. I'm happy to put it to the vote.
Thank you, Councillor Rooks. We'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried. H9, proposed road discontinuance, Backlane, Walker Street, Dalston. Mr Mack to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to recommend council conclude the statutory procedures to discontinue the Backlane, Walker Street, Dalston and dispose of the land from the road to a surrounding property owner. A public exhibition process has been undertaken and no submissions were received. The recommendation is consistent with Council's road discontinuance and sale policy 2020, as the road is not reasonably required for general public use and has no strategic value for Council. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mack. Have a councillor to move that. Councillor Kent, seconder. Councillor Holstead. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor. This has been before us a number of times. I'm hoping this is the final step. It's a lot of work to comply with the Local Government Act to get rid of the piece of land that isn't used by the community, and we can move it on to the local residents. It's been great for what the council officers have achieved there. Maybe a little bit of money there for the council will come out of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Councillor Holstead.
Nothing further to add.
Nothing further. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, put that, councillor Kent.
Thank you.
We'll vote on that. Those in favour? That's carried. Which brings us to H10, review of instrument of delegation, council to staff. Mr Mack to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to recommend that council adopts the instrument of delegation from council to staff and revoke the previously adopted instrument of delegation from council to staff. These delegations facilitate the achievement of good governance and effective service delivery by empowering people to make decisions on behalf of council at the appropriate level. The instrument of delegation has been updated to reflect changes and requirements to a number of relevant acts and regulations and is recommended to council for adoption.
Thank you, Mr Mack. Can I have a councillor to move the motion? Councillor Lasserve and councillor Rooks. Councillor Lasserve.
Oh, thank you, Mr Mayor. It's really an operational kind of matter that comes before us. I think it's just good governance and I'm happy to support the recommendation. Quite clear what it is.
Thank you, councillor Lasserve. Councillor Rooks.
Nothing further to add.
Any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Lark.
I just want to put it in context. There are 3 levels of delegation: council to the CEO to council officers, and council to council officers. And this is the element we're dealing with today. It relates to specific areas of legislation, such as the Cemeteries and Crematoria Act and regulations, the Food Act, Planning and Environment Act and regulations, and so forth. So I just wanted to outline those 3 levels, and the level that we're dealing with today is in relation to council directly to council officers under specific requirements for particular areas of legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Lark. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, we put that, councillor Lasserve.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Those in favour? That's carried. Brings us to statutory reports. And can I have a councillor move agenda items 1, 1, 1, 2 and 1, 3 be considered as a block, please? Councillor Bauer and councillor Rooks. Those in favour? That's carried. Does any councillor wish to speak to any of those reports? Councillor Kent.
Just a comment, if I could get from one of the council officers, just looking at the planning and building activity report, just the some of the figures there. Have we had an increase in our building? The local papers have said that development in the area has fallen behind compared to last year, but I'm just wondering if we can receive a comment on that.
Through you, Mr Mayor, that's correct. The 2022 building permit activity figures are trailing behind where we were at in 2021. We are keeping abreast of the amount of planning applications and the type of which we're receiving. But yeah, there had certainly building permit activity, there has been a drop off.
And that's out of our control, I take it.
That is out of our control.
Thank you.
Can I just ask?
Councillor Holstead, yeah.
Mr Sturton, I know that this is probably an opinion question really, but I would have thought that the pandemic may have had an impact on those numbers from last year. And so are we just seeing a correction?
Through you, Mr Mayor, quite possibly we did see an increase during the two COVID years in both the complexity and quantity of planning applications, and that trends in line with the building permit activity. So it could well be a return back. There's a lot of other factors at play at the moment: rising interest rates, market activity, house prices that are contributing. Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Sturton. Can I have a councillor move that the recommendations attached to agenda items 1, 1, 1, 2 and 1, 3 be adopted, please? Councillor Bauer, seconder. Councillor Kent. Those in favour? That's carried, and have not been notified of any urgent business. Which then brings us to the announcement of the next meeting of council. The next council meeting will be held on the 16th of November 2022 in the Bass Coast Civic Centre Council Chamber, Beaulieu Street East, Wonthaggi, commencing at 1 p.m. I also intend to call a council meeting to be held virtually on Wednesday, the 26th of October, commencing at 9:15 a.m. for the purpose of considering the 2021-22 annual report. The finalisation of council's annual report has been impacted due to delays in the Victorian Auditor General's office. Confirmation of the additional council meeting will be posted on council's website and social media once receipt of VARGO certification has been received. Thank you for watching the live stream of council's meeting today, and I now declare the meeting closed.